Jesus Christ.
Hey, y'all.
Oh, let me move that down. Oops. And it was like she just start getting louder as soon as we start put this record button. All right, guys, welcome to the podcast or to the stream. I'm your host T. Let me turn that off. There you go. There we go. I'm your host T. This is my lovely wife Tasha, and today we are having our morning or afternoon chat. Now, a lot of times we talk amongst each other where we shoot the shit, and we just decided to include you guys in the conversation.
Yes.
So today we're going to be talking about the new homeless in America, which is the middle class. This is something that this conversation has been sparked for a while, and we see the sentiment that a lot of people have during, I guess, when artists make songs like who is that guy, Oliver Anthony?
Yeah, we've been referencing him a lot.
Yeah, exactly, because you see this this talking point come up a lot in conversations. People are concerned about the direction of the country. We're concerned about our politicians. You're concerned about your money and what is going on. So we have a couple videos that we're going to be checking out. But babe, what's going on?
So I wanted to talk about this, because as a bigger picture, we were even talking about Kellogg's CEO earlier this week and eating cereal for dinner. And basically, the people who are siphoning money from the American people are telling you to be okay with less.
Yeah.
And so it's more than just food and money. It's your way of life. And the basics are no longer being had.
Right.
Like food and shelter. And so I seen a statistic saying that within the last year, homelessness has gone up 12%.
Okay. Wow.
That's over 653,000 people, American citizens. And back in the day, you would think that the people who were homeless were just maybe people that didn't do well in life.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a completely different type of person now.
Right.
And I think it was glamorized at first because people didn't know with van life.
Yes, I do agree to that extent. There was a period in time where...
Because I was like, I want to do van life.
There was this glamorization of having less and being more than happy about it with van life, tiny homes, and other things.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It was like all of a sudden there was this corporate light bulb where it was like, wait a minute, we can do this to everyone. And they decided to somehow monetize tiny homes and van life. I mean, it was already monetized.
No, I think it was already,
it became a thing.
I think it was the glamorization so you could be okay with it. And then when people were getting less and less, like less pay, and then inflation's going up. It's like now you can't even afford the basics. So it's like, the glamorization of tiny homes, and it was a choice.
Right. Yeah.
Now that choice is being taken away from you.
Exactly.
And it's like, well,
this is the only option.
Instead of getting an apartment you can afford, get a van or live in your car. We pay you less. You can't afford groceries.
So this is what you have to do.
So now something that you were just glamorizing, it's like,
it becomes the new normal. Now, if y'all remember a couple of years back when people were purchasing tiny homes, or that trend was going around, they were getting the tiny homes because it was like an alternative for buying a normal size house, but you could save a lot of money as well, because I believe to get the tiny homes built was like $30,000 to $50,000.
Right.
And if you wanted a luxury tiny home, then it was maybe about $100K. Now 100K is like the bare minimum.
Yeah, you can't get a tiny home.
Yeah, you
for
can't
100K.
even get. On top of the fact, when people start saying that, oh, that's a great idea, I can put a tiny home in my backyard, or if I have some extra land, I can build it over there, or if I have extra space on my farm or countryside, I can build it there and maybe Airbnb it or something. And I think in the earlier days, they wouldn't allow it because they had the permits. Yeah. And so for a long time, it was like you saw it on the internet, but then you really couldn't do it in a residential area until they start passing law. It was like they had to regulate it first. And so once
of course, I mean, because you can't have like a subdivision of $500,000 homes and then put a tiny home on the land.
I get
regulations make sense.
So they do make sense, but I'm talking about this is for somebody who may have had farmland. It was like you might own your own land and it's out in the middle of nowhere and you couldn't even put a tiny home there.
Yes, you could.
Because they were like, oh, building codes this and blah, blah, blah.
No, you could. You just couldn't have like tiny home communities. So in Atlanta, we have a huge homeless population.
Right. Yeah.
And so some people were coming up with solutions.
Oh,
with the tiny home community park.
Right. Yeah.
And it was going to be in Clarkston. But it was also for people who, there was one for an idea for the homeless population, but it was also a community idea for people who made a base salary, like firemen, teachers, and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
And they didn't pass it because they thought it would bring a certain type of person. Right. However, in Atlanta, I must say there are a lot of incentives for teachers and firemen and public servants to
have affordable housing.
But to find out about it is very hard. Plus, the process that you have to go through is complicated, and a lot of them don't know what they're doing, like the loan officers. Yeah. And that's a problem within itself. But later on, like 5 or 6 years later, they were like, okay, we can now make a profit off of this, sell the homes for 3 times the price. Now you can have your tiny home community.
Right, exactly. And it's been normalized now. Once again, guys, happy Friday. Thank y'all so very much for hanging out with us this afternoon. Feel free to add to the conversation in the chat. Say what's up. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Eric, Sagittarius Dad, Beerhound, Jason 108, Conscious Citizen, Tommy, what's up, man? DeMar, what's going on? Clancy, Rash of Beatings. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the stream. Rash of Beatings. Hey, we ain't gonna judge you on your names. But yeah, so over the past couple of years, the tiny home, the minimalization of your lifestyle has been glamorized. Van life. I remember we were watching the van life videos and was like, oh, we'd love to live in a tiny van and travel.
You told me I couldn't do it.
Nah, you couldn't.
I was like, I want to do van life, but not permanently. Right. I never wanted to do van life permanently, but I did like the idea of traveling and maybe doing our reactions in a new location and stuff like that. Really make the adventures of TNT an adventure. Right, yeah. However, one thing I never thought about was how I was going to wipe my butt.
Yeah, showering
and shower.
Yeah.
There's no bathrooms in the van.
But the thing of it is, when you watch the YouTubers who do participate in it or do it, and they're showing you the videos of how they have bathrooms and stuff inside their van or the customizations that they've made, they really glamorize it. And so, you do make concessions when you watch it. It was like, okay, I can do that.
That's what I said. I said I can do it.
Because for me, I like video games. I like being a gamer, and
you feel like you can do that in the van?
No, not necessarily. I wasn't completely sold on van life. When I seen the videos, I was like, that's cool and everything, but what happens when I want to play some games or whatever? And so maybe I don't know, the microphone on my phone picked it up, and then all of a sudden there was like a van life guy who turned his van into like a streaming studio or something like that. And I was like, that was interesting. So they got a little bit of everything for somebody.
And now, like Clancy says, now vans are $100K.
Yeah. So now they know that people are hip to this.
Yeah.
Now they're selling the vans for like a bunch of money. So it's like now everything is through the roof.
Right.
You know, people were doing these things in order to save money because of the way the economy is and the skyrocketing prices of life. And now you can't. And so I think the other option was to go overseas. A lot of people have been going to South America. They've been going to Asia. They've been going to different parts of the world in order to save money.
And that's the people who are like nomads who can work from
anywhere. Well, and that's the criteria that you have to be in. You have to
be. What about regular people?
Yeah, because that's not something that regular people can do. Because there's no way you're going to work in an office in New York and then you're going to go live in your apartment in Bali. It's just not going to happen. But we see, you know, this is a weird climate that we're living in right now because we see people that are doing what they can in order to stay afloat, and that's what has what's bringing this conversation up is that we're seeing an increase in the homeless population, but it's not who you think it would be. These are regular Americans. These are people who have jobs, who have worked a career, and they're barely scraping by because of circumstances. Recently, I had did a video on our other channel, which you guys should check it out. It's TNT Podcast. We started, if you like this conversation, you like us having these kind of conversations, check out our other channel that we have.
Our other channel.
Yes, it's other channel where we only talk about things of this nature. So it's not music reactions or anything else, but it's us having conversations about this kind of stuff. But on one of the videos we did, there was a clip of a guy who was upset because he was in front of a shelter where he was staying. And he said, I have a full-time job. I work 40 hours a week. I can't afford to live anywhere. And so I've been living in this shelter. And now you guys are kicking me out to make room for migrants. And so that's something that we might touch on today as well. Yeah. But I know you said you had some videos you wanted to talk about.
This could be an entire new video within itself. So America has a lot of issues going on, as well as the homelessness issue, but we have the illegal migrant issue, and you know, some of the states are sanctuary cities, and there was a similar situation, like you said, like the homeless guy, where he can't afford an apartment, so he goes to the homeless shelter. But there was a flooding in San Diego? I think it was,
California.
And so I don't know if y'all watch the news or even TikTok news, but San Diego was flooded. I've never seen anything like it. And so a lot of residents, they could no longer stay in their homes. And there's a video, if you could pull it up now. It's been about a month. And so now their homes still aren't livable, but many residents and citizens have been placed in hotels. And in this particular video, this young lady is upset because they're getting kicked out of the hotel to make room for illegal migrants.
Okay.
And I think a lot of times when we have these conversations, I don't want people to like lash out over immigrants. There are plenty of people who come here legally, who do all the right things to get into this country.
Right.
However, there are an in-stream of people who are coming here illegally because it's somehow easier that way, and they are getting privileges that American citizens themselves aren't getting. And so you will see that in this. They're being kicked out of the hotel to make room for illegal migrants.
I think that is a huge issue, and you're right. It is a separate video and a good talking point that most Americans understand that people want to immigrate to America. It's a great country to live in.
Yes.
Despite our flaws and faults that we have.
We're not perfect.
We're not a perfect country. No country
Even
is perfect.
Even Canada is not perfect. I don't care what y'all say.
I mean, Canada's damn near. But still, there's its issues. But I think the main issues that a lot of Americans have is, take care of us. We live here.
Take care of your citizens.
Yeah, take care of the people who vote you into your positions. Why is it hard to take care of American citizens?
Yeah. Why
don't we get the same benefits as other countries who aren't as developed as we are?
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go ahead and check out this video. Y'all can leave your thoughts in the chat. And once again, thank y'all for hanging out with us. Now, this is about a young lady who said that you said they were living in they were staying in a hotel because of the flooding, and now they're being kicked out because of the migrants.
Listen to this. Because I just found out that March 11th, residents from the flood victim will be kicked out. So I wanted to let you guys.
Can you please state your name? I didn't call your name.
I know you didn't, but I'm still going to speak because on March 11th, flood resident victims will be kicked out of the hotel for the county. As you all talked about immigrants.
Tasha.
You need to also understand that you guys need to talk about people that voted for you.
Tasha.
You are going to make people homeless because they were in a flood victim. Because they were in a flood that was man-made. And I don't care if you turn it off.
No, it's okay.
Very nice. I have been very kind.
I understand, but I want you to know that this is a priority.
And I have waited. These people have waited for you to stand up for them.
We have.
You have not. If you are going to put them out of a hotel.
We're gonna.
March 11th is their exit day.
We are going to make sure.
Not coming. The county is not talking to FEMA. Their exit day, and they found out today. They found out today will be no extension. They found out today that the county is leaving the hotel. They found out today.
We're going to follow up to make sure that that doesn't occur.
Like you all is in high school.
No.
Y'all putting plans together like high schoolers. People voted for you. You got college degrees. You acting like you in high school. Stop acting like you are not working together. You sit here and talk about God. God ain't in this shit. You don't have to look at me. You don't have to look at me. You talked about God. You talked about equality. You sit up here and talk about how you don't want people put out on your streets. You about to put the people that voted for you out on the streets. You won't work with the city, the county. The city won't work with the county. The county won't work with
Tasha.
All of y'all can go to hell. Shame on you.
Tasha.
Shame on you.
Understood. We're going to have to.
And you started on February 10th. It ends March 10th.
We're going to.
You even tell the people.
We're following
the
up.
people who supported all of you.
Tasha, we're following up. Go ahead.
Wow.
Then next.
We're following up.
Yeah.
So they're going to be out the next day.
Yeah, they're going to be on the street by the time they're following up. And that's what it seems like what's going on in America in general. People are crying out about the living situation that's going on, can't pay rent, can't buy groceries. And the government, politicians, the response is, we're going to get back to you. We're going to follow up.
But first, they'll cut your mic out first.
Oh, yeah, because they don't want you to be heard.
She was like, she's been waiting in there, I guess, all week to talk. Mm-hmm. And they've now pushed it so far back to where they're going to be out the next day.
Yeah.
And so she was like, I can't wait any longer because what you're doing to American citizens shouldn't be allowed. We voted for you. And you're putting us out for, she said immigrants, but illegal immigrants,
right.
Actually.
Right.
And so the question is, where do you go from here? And right. They didn't seem passionate enough for me to where they were concerned about the well-being of the citizens
right.
of San Diego.
Right.
And it was like, we're following up. There should not, if they're getting put out tomorrow, there should already be something in place for them. There there shouldn't be, oh, we're following up. It should be like, okay, well, we've already handled this, and this is what we have for you. We have vouchers. We have this. And so you can hear the passion in her voice, speaking not only for herself, but for the people that surround her.
Yeah.
And for them to shut her down, move her out, cut off her mic, all of those people who are in charge need to be overthrown.
Right.
Overthrown, because they could have heard her out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what is going on right now. I think that we're reaching a point. We're not quite there yet, but it's going to eventually reach a point of where Americans are reaching their breaking point.
Oh.
And I think
you don't want that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want that to happen. Because when that does happen, we've seen it on the news. We've seen what happens when American citizens reach their breaking point. Right now, everything's still kind of calm because people are still buying groceries that are overpriced, and they're paying $2,000 a month rent for a studio apartment, and they're buying homes that are triple the going rate with an 8% interest rate.
Oh, they're not buying homes.
And
they're not buying homes.
Well, what I'm saying is that people are still taking it. You know,
oh, yeah.
They're still taking it. Kellogg's CEO is coming on TV saying, "Hey, eat cereal for dinner."
Because that's all you can afford anyway.
Yeah, screw chicken, and screw meat.
And we're going to keep raising these prices.
Right.
But speaking of it, they have discounted Kellogg's cereal so much. And it's making people even madder because they're like, this box of cereal could have been $2 this entire time.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's like, well, we're going to make it, you can't say no.
I know you're hungry.
Right, yeah, I know you're hungry. Shit. But, Americans are still, they're not at their breaking point yet. And that is a scary sight to see.
It's like,
because we've seen at different times, whether it be the George Floyd riots with BLM or even the January 6th thing at the Capitol, we see what happens when Americans get closer and closer to that breaking point, and it's scary.
But some people see it before others.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I felt it 10 years ago because I did what I was supposed to do. I went to school. I went to college right after high school. I got my degree, and I was like, okay. And I was having problems because the economy, crashed or whatever.
The 2008 housing crisis.
And I remember my grandma, my dad's mom, she told me I wasn't working hard enough.
Right.
She said, you're not trying hard enough. And this is in the middle of, people losing their jobs or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, it hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, let me try this way.
Right.
It worked. Like, I started calling people because I was like, Grandma, I done sent my resume everywhere. And I had bridges that I've built with people, and I put my pride to the side, said I needed a job, and I did get a job.
Right.
I did, and I was like, man, if I start making this amount of money, I'll be okay.
Right.
And so I started making this amount of money. I was like, okay, I can afford an apartment now. But then every year, they were adding like $200. This was 10 years ago.
Yeah, they were steadily increasing.
They were increasing the rent, and I was like, okay, how can I can't afford this? And so I remember my coworker telling me just to talk them down because I've never missed a payment.
Right.
And so for the first year, it worked. But after that, it didn't work anymore. They was like, we want our money. And I'm like, who is paying this much for apartments? And the thing is, there was someone always paying that much for an apartment.
Right. Well, the thing of it is that there's always people out there that are willing to sacrifice more than you in order to afford a certain standard of living or a certain lifestyle. People come up with whatever strategies they can in order to afford a home because, as I said, although there might not be a lot of Americans out there that are still purchasing homes at the high interest rate or, a home that was $200,000 4 or 5 years ago is now $800,000. There's still people out there doing it, and maybe they're having family members come move in with them. But going back to your grandmother, God bless her heart, we were talking about this before. She was coming from a different generation, and maybe in her eyes you weren't trying hard enough, because you got to keep in perspective that she may have grown up during the 20s. In the Great Depression, or maybe the 30s or 40s.
So my dad's mom is only 14 years older than my dad.
Oh, yikes!
So she
okay, right. Well, you know what? When you say your grandma, because I'm thinking about my grandpa. My grandpa, he grew up in the Great Depression, so for them, it was like they had to go through boot soup. And you saw it on the cartoons on TV where and I didn't really think it was a real thing. But I was like, those people were so hungry that they were eating the leather from the boots. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And making boot stew. And so if you had to go through that, and then you see your grandchild or your great-grandchild years later talking about, they're talking about, oh, it's so hard, I can't get a job. You'd be like, yo, you ain't gone through nothing. You need to try harder.
But still, she has gone through a lot. Yeah. More so than I have. And when you have a bit more of a more comfortable upbringing, and they look at you,
they look at you as soft,
but then I it did help me, but it just got harder and harder to where I couldn't do it anymore, and I was wondering, I was like, how are people like really doing this? Because I was like, I wasn't the type of person who wanted to spend all my money on rent and not have anything left over. Yeah, right. And I think with these landlords or apartment complexes, they will stretch you thin and they don't care. They'll be like, what other choice do you have? Right. And so if you're not going to pay for it, somebody else will. And it's like, how long can we do this for? Absolutely. And so I remember, like, when this was happening to me, because they had asked me, why did you not pay the extra $200 a month? Right. Screw the fact that I said I can't afford it, but they were like, should we if we would have upgraded your appliances, would you have stayed? I don't care about no appliance that I don't own, that I'm paying for 20 times over. It made no sense to me. So I was like, I Googled, why do apartments continuously raise rates? I Googled it.
All right, to make money.
And so it's not just to make money, obviously. It's to actually sell the apartment complex. Right. And so everything goes into a circle. And there's this thing called REITs. Right. And it's like they're basically using the apartments as stocks. Right. And it just goes in this little circle where all they're doing is just buying and selling to each other to circulate the money. Right. That's all that is. Even with the senior facilities, that's all that is. And that's what they do. They fluff up the numbers in order to make the business or the building look good, and then they sell it. And we see that happening so many times with so many different businesses, because it's not just apartment companies, but it's just businesses in general. Because how it happens with offices, happens with restaurants. Where they just fluff the numbers up to make everything look good in order to sell it to the highest bidder. Right. And just so everybody can continuously making money off of y'all. Exactly. So at the expense of the consumer, or in the case of the economy right now, the American people. Right. And so you'll think like, oh, the property management company, they were bought out because they suck. And it wasn't really that. They don't care if the property management suck. It's just about the money. So when I looked into that, I was like, oh, I know what I need to do. But now I think people are out of options. And the fact that nothing is being done, because I watched like the crime go up.
Right.
But in Atlanta, not only do we have a homeless population problem, we have a squatters problem. Okay. And there's this thing called squatters' rights that infuriates the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And so it's so bad in Atlanta that there's this, I guess, a property management company where you can go look at houses, and they give you the keys to go look at the properties. So what's happening is people are pretending they're looking at rental properties to rent, but they're taking the actual keys because people
and they're selling them to people.
They're copying the keys. And then they're renting out the actual place without an actual contract from the owner of the house. So then you're squatting, and then because you don't have a contract, there is nothing that you can do immediately to get that person out of the house.
Wow.
And so it's so bad. They're doing it on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
But there is this one incident in particular where we have some beautiful neighborhoods in Atlanta. I must say that. Beautiful neighborhoods. And this woman, she was out on, she was in the Army Reserves, left for 2 months. I want you to see what happened to her beautiful abode that she left for 2 months. I think it's in the email I sent you.
Yeah. All right. So is it this one right here, Georgia woman?
No, that's another story.
Hold on. Is it this one right here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me see. Let's go ahead and bring this up.
So many stories in Atlanta, can't keep up.
Squatters' rights.
Squatters' rights. They have rights.
Dang. So you're basically copying the key, and then you're renting out the house to someone who thinks that, like, this is your house.
Yeah, but initially, I think some of the people actually knew.
So
you're just paying for the key to get in there, and then you just squat the rest of the time.
And you know that you're squatting in the house, and that the owner can't kick you out immediately. Right. Okay.
So you at least have somewhere to stay for 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
But, yeah, you can watch this.
Date to a Channel 2 Action News investigation. A local Army officer is back in her DeKalb County home tonight, a week after we told you about how a squatter had moved in and was living in her place. Well, the woman's crediting Channel 2 consumer investigator Justin Gray for getting her back in her home. And Justin with us, and that squatter is now behind bars.
Well, Justin, normally homeowners are told they have to go through the eviction process, which can take months. That's what Lieutenant Colonel Delia Duray was initially told by DeKalb police earlier this month. But after our Channel 2 Action News story aired, the DeKalb Sheriff's Office contacted her and said they will circumvent that process with something called an intruder affidavit.
Wow.
If it wasn't for Channel 2, Justin Gray, I wouldn't be here today, and I'm truly grateful.
Look at all the stuff pulled out of this DeKalb County house. The alleged squatter, Vincent Simon, had only been in the home a matter of weeks, but you can see he had really moved in.
Dude had Amazon packages and everything.
And dogs? Photographer was there, camera rolling, as Simon was.
God damn. I mean, dude had everything in there. Like, he was not planning to leave.
But you know, the hurtful thing is, because you go to the police and they tell you they can't do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there is someone in her house illegally who she doesn't know, just up in her house,
with dogs
in her
and
bed, getting Amazon packages for a house that he didn't pay for, and a woman who is serving this country. And you're telling me, until Channel 2 Action News came and made y'all look bad, now we found a way to get him out. How do you evict a person who has no contract? He immediately should have been kicked out.
Right, yeah.
Lieutenant Colonel Dahlia DeRay's Ellenwood home by order of an intruder affidavit.
Just as I finished renovating, you leisurely moved in like it's yours. No, I was not going to let this go.
It was 1 week ago that Lieutenant Colonel DeRay first reached out to Channel 2. She'd put her home up for sale while away on Army active duty in Chicago when this convicted criminal moved in, putting up beware of dog signs and cardboard in the windows, claiming he had a lease. DeRay was told by police she would have to take him to court and go through a formal eviction process.
I felt violated. Had I not been serving my country, I would have been in my home.
But this week, DeRay got to see Simon led out of the house in cuffs.
Vincent, your time is up.
It feels good. We can return the home back to their homeowner.
Police found a gun and suspected ecstasy in the home. You can see the giant gun safe Simon had brought in.
my
As
God.
a convicted felon, he legally cannot have a firearm.
He attempted to show us the lease. That's not what the law allows.
Normally showing a bogus lease or even just claiming to have a lease is enough to get a squatter case kicked to a months-long court battle.
Wow.
Protections of tenants, but you don't want protection of squatters.
DeKalb County Attorney John Ernst has been fighting a similar squatter case for a client since February and says these cases regularly drag on for months with delays both in the courts and with the marshals. His client still isn't back in his home.
It's been 3 months since they were moved in, and we'll probably have at least another month and a half.
But with the sheriff's office bypassing that eviction process, DeRay now has her house back.
I came here with a mission in mind to get him out of my house and put him in jail where he belongs.
Dang.
And mission accomplished for Lieutenant Colonel DeRay, the attorney we talked to, John.
Well, that's good. I'm glad things kind of worked out for her. So many times you hear about these horror stories and then things don't really work out in the favor of the landlord, especially when
she's not a landlord.
Or the I mean, I'm just saying, like, in cases of either the homeowner or the landlord, there are situations where the squatter is upset that you're kicking them out.
Yeah, and they trash the house.
On their way out, they trash the house.
And I'm like, how dare you?
Right.
Like, I'm supposed to be okay with you just living in my home free of charge? Like, I never understood that mindset for you to get mad at someone else when you're the one in the wrong.
I would just be like, hey, my bad, I'm out.
My bad.
All right, I'm caught. You got me. I just needed somewhere to stay. I'm going to pack up my stuff and I'm gone. Don't call the police.
And that's my thing.
But he sat there.
In.
Yeah, not only did he move in, when he got caught, it was like, oh, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And then on top of the fact that he was like a convicted felon already.
Right.
You know, if that was the case, like, I wouldn't want anything, you know.
So what would you have done? Because here's the
if
thing.
I was a woman?
Not if you was a woman.
Or if I was that lady. If
because
it was,
the thing is, we go on vacation and we have my mom house sit.
Yeah.
We do not leave the house empty.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in this neighborhood, when they go off, we watch their house or they get a house sitter.
If it was me and that person wouldn't leave,
smoke them out.
Nah, not smoke. I would be right there in the house with them until they left. I would be like, all right, well, you know what? We
living together?
We gonna live together.
Oh no,
yeah.
Not with no convicted felon.
Yeah, we gonna live together. Well, I'm a man, so it's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I was a woman, I wouldn't do it. But as a man,
so this man, now you seen that house? That is a nice house.
It is a nice house.
You mean to tell me you would live in that house with that man and him in your kitchen? Be like, what's up?
Because the thing of it is that
Shotty?
the police aren't gonna make them leave. Nobody's gonna make them leave, so I'm being there every day.
You know what I would do?
Yeah, we gonna have words every single solitary day.
I would let him turn his back on me.
God.
And then have him turn around real quick, and I'm like, I'm scared.
Anyway, guys, leave your thoughts down below in the comment section.
No, because I feel like it's a violation. Like, I feel like people are too comfortable nowadays. And they don't respect anyone. And she worked hard for that house, and I would have blacked out. I wouldn't even. I would have called the police afterwards.
Right. So this goes back to what we were saying nowadays. Like, right now we're seeing a lot of peculiar cases of scams. We're seeing a lot of cases of things happening that we haven't seen in a long time. And and the thing of it is that it would be different if crime was going up, but then you had an affordable place to live or groceries to eat. Now it's getting to the point of where it's like, it's chaos. You got $3,000 a month rent for your studio apartment. You got high ass grocery bills. You have high ass mortgage rates and taxes and everything. But now you got crime that's just out of control, because Atlanta is like a fucking zoo. It's like everywhere you look, the crime rate is just out of control. Yeah. And when you look on TV, when you see what the police or your politicians are doing about it, they're like, we'll get back to y'all later.
Right.
And it's not just Atlanta. We're seeing it all over America, because we're seeing people complain about it in different states.
Yeah.
So.
But it's really bad here. I have one more story.
Okay.
And this is people trying to avoid homelessness.
Right.
Okay. But I don't agree with going about it in illegal ways. You know, I think.
Well, that's what it turns into. When people can't afford to do things the legal way, it turns into an illegal way.
But why take away from someone who might be struggling just as much as you? They just maybe
don't think about it, because it turns into survival mode. For anybody who's ever been in that kind of situation of where you are in survival mode, you are not worried about anyone else except yourself and your family. I
disagree. So I feel like I would not, if you're in survival mode, how selfish is it to take away from someone else who might be in survival mode, but you're thinking, well, they got it, so I can just take it from them.
Yeah.
That does not make it any sense, because you're not the only one who's fallen on hard times. It's like the American population has fallen on hard times, and so you just taking away from another citizen who is maybe working 2 or 3 more jobs than you.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this conversation, of where I was saying Americans haven't truly reached their breaking point yet, because when they have, that's when you'll see the chaos start. That's when you'll see the people taking away from others who have more than them. And it doesn't matter if that other person who has a little bit more than them is on hard times. It's, how can I survive? And what do I need to do in order to make it through this week, this month, or whatever?
Okay.
But let's go ahead and jump into this video.
So this Georgia woman has found a way to scam landlords. So you could check it out.
Okay.
A Love and Alive investigation into professional tenants. And in this case, being a pro is not a compliment.
It means you're good at exploiting the system to avoid paying rent. And while investigator Rebecca Lindstrom says landlords may be out thousands of dollars, in the eyes of the law, it's rarely prosecuted as theft.
It is a crime, but it's hard to get police and prosecutors to pay attention. We started looking into this after a viewer reached out, and he was saying finding affordable housing is tough, especially if your credit is not so good. But it is this kind of behavior that makes it even harder for someone who needs a landlord willing to give them a chance.
Ma'am,
have you paid rent? Have you paid rent?
You need to go. You're not supposed
have
to
you
be
paid
here.
rent?
You need to go.
It's an easy question. This woman refuses to answer.
She moved in June, and we started the eviction process in August.
Why?
Non-payment.
Ever.
She paid her first reservation fee, which bounced. Then she paid the deposit, which again bounced after she had moved in.
Gary Lee owns a property management company, now trying to collect for one of 6 landlords Shatil rented from in Gwinnett County. Court records show in the past 2 years, none of the landlords got paid in full. And when the money stopped, the excuses began.
This is the unit here.
Kenny Luna and 2 other landlords say Shatil claimed she couldn't pay because of problems with identity theft.
She gave me a letter from her bank saying, we have your money, but we can't give it to you because you have fraud.
But landlords shared letters from banks they could never verify, and we discovered a notarized letter full of misinformation.
Wow.
But when we tried to ask Shatil about it,
what are you talking about?
Luna says what upsets him the most is that she's doing this with her 2 children.
And I'm like, they're bouncing from house to house. You know, that's not a way to live. That's not stable. She works for a place that's supposed to protect children.
Oh, yeah. We confirmed that for 5 months, Shatil worked for DFACS, Georgia's Division of Family and Children's Services.
Damn.
They're using the system. It's a broken system.
Nobody tracks the scope of the problem, but Lee says in his 27 years of experience, about 20% of those who fall behind on their rent are doing it on purpose. And he says it's getting worse. A tenant can delay an eviction by filing a response. Any response. Shatil once simply wrote, "I am filing an answer to this case." We surveyed metro counties around metro Atlanta. Most of the courts say they can hear cases in a matter of weeks. But in Gwinnett, like many other counties, it can take up to 6 months to actually enforce the order.
Oh, my goodness.
Do these property owners ever end up getting that lost rent?
No. Most of the time it's gone.
Shatil was convicted of theft in Clayton County, but was sentenced as a first offender. So exactly what she stole is sealed. While failing to pay rent is usually considered a civil matter, property owners wish it were easier to prosecute as a crime when a pattern is clear. But I am trying to figure out why you've bounced from house to house to house without paying rent. On or off camera, Shatil never did answer our questions, but at least her current landlord says she is paying rent.
For now.
And I am told after we started asking questions, Shatil did pay what she owed to one of her former landlords. It is important to note it is the families with 1 or 2 properties willing to give someone a chance that are really being exploited by this action.
Yeah. And that's very unfortunate because what we've come to find is that, you know, most people have a good heart. And people want to give people who are down on their luck or going through something a chance to help them out.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there where somebody has taken a chance on us and it has helped us immensely, whether it be a job interview or, you know, giving you $10 or something like that. But in this kind of situation, when you see and hear stories like this, it makes you not want to help people out of fear of what could happen. This was kind of like the case of when we were looking at different rental properties because we were thinking about doing the Airbnb thing or having a rental property or something. But squatters, tenants who don't pay rent or destroy your property was something that we didn't consider. But when we started to think about it or calculate or keep that in consideration, it kind of made us be like, I don't know if we want to do this.
Yep.
You know, so.
And thank God we didn't, because we'll probably be dealing with who knows.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and when this was going on,
COVID happened.
This was right around the time when COVID happened, and we were
had
like,
the moratorium.
we were like, oh my God.
And it's like, you still got to pay the mortgage.
Yeah,
you not paying rent, but the landlord still got to pay the mortgage.
The landlord still got to pay the mortgage on their property, you know. And so, guys, we'd love to hear your stories if anybody has gone through something like that. What did you do in that situation?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Very interesting topic that I hope gets some solutions. People should be able to have affordable, decent places to stay, and it's a basic human right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now we're fighting for basic human rights. If this is what we're fighting for, it's only gonna get worse.
Right. Well, that's what it looks like, especially with what's going on. So, guys, leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. We'd love to continue this conversation. And as always, like, share, and subscribe. And if you did enjoy this conversation and you want to hear more conversations like this, check out our other channel at TNT Podcast. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Happy Friday to you all. Y'all have a great afternoon, and we will see you.